Hello everyone. So in this video, we will be going through how to disassemble the Shimano RSX brifter. This is a job bar shifter from back in the 1995 up to, I guess, early 2000s. The RSX is Shimano's kind of entry-level shifter component group set, and this comes with my Bianchi Volpi bicycle that I'm restoring. If you guys are interested in the restoration video of that bicycle, make sure to check out the link in the description. Okay, but this one is going to be focused on how to get the stock. So this one, the issue, as you can see, it's very obvious. It doesn't upshift, and when you downshift, it also doesn't downshift properly. So it's kind of stuck in just one gear. This is extremely common on those entry-level shifters back in the days. It's due to the grease gets stuck on the little pawl that's used to actually clip and catch on to the gears. It's actually a fairly easy fix. Okay, so I already disassembled and fixed the left, which is the front chainring side. It's not terribly hard. The only tricky part is putting this arm back onto the main body with this little punch pin over here. It's kind of hard to align, but that's probably the hardest part. Other than that, everything should be fairly straightforward. And just also make sure you don't lose any of the small parts, because all kinds of small parts kind of matters on this shifter. Okay, so you can see when it's working normally, you'll hear the click, and when you upshift, okay, 2 clicks. So this is a triple, and downshift, and there's a gear that just moves surrounding the gears at the front, somewhere like around here. This gear moves around when you upshift, as you can see, like right there, exposed. And if you downshift, it goes back. Okay. So now this one is super smooth. Before it was like gunked up and it's super stuck. So I did clean it. I used some sort of solvent like Gugong to fully remove the grease on the left side. Now I'm going to tackle the right side. And since I already worked on the left side, I know exactly what to do on those shifters. Okay, so I'm going to get started. And the first thing first is actually removing this lock pin on the little pin set over here. And it's probably applied with Loctite, so you kind of need to use quite a lot of force to kind of open it up if it's your first time. Okay, this one does take quite a lot of force. And you don't have to completely remove it, but it's okay if you just turn all the way and it's got removed. But the main purpose is loosen this so it doesn't catch on and lock on the connector pin in the middle. Let's see if I can lose it this way. And rest of the procedure should be fairly easy. Okay. And what's also going to help is have a little bit of the motor oil. I used my leftover synthetic motor oil for my car, and just kind of like drip a few drops in here. If it's like super dry, it will help in aiding in removing all the necessary stuff in order to properly service this shifter. Okay. All right. So at this point, it's already, it's not going to be in the way, so we should be able to actually remove it. Okay. And to access the internals, you have to remove this off the main body. Okay. So that's why we need to loosen the pin that locks this little pin over here, and then we can punch this pin out with just a regular punch. I use my punch for my firearms restoration, and it actually all works great. The largest punch in this set actually works great. So all you're gonna do is actually just leave this on the flat surface with a little leverage, and you can just punch it out like the pins on the AR. Super easy. You don't even need to use something. I just used a rubber mallet, and it should be able to punch it, and it should come out fairly easily with that pin removed. As you can see, it already came out. Okay, so hold on to the arms because there's a little spring inside. You don't want to lose that spring. And just push this pin out, okay? There are two sides on the lever. There's a wider side with a bushing and a narrow side with a bushing. The spring goes to the wide side, and when I take it out, you'll see the spring catches a pin on the lever arms. Okay, so now you can actually just get this removed fairly easily. Okay, now we don't have to worry about the main body. Just leave the main body on the side, and I show you the spring. The spring goes to the larger bushing, and there's a pin in here where the spring is going to be resting on, like right there. Okay, all those parts are very easily removed, and you do need to remove those to access the screw to remove this lever, to expose the internal components, to degrease them. Okay, the main purpose of disassembly everything is to degrease the stuck gears and the paws on inside here. So don't lose this. Okay, keep those on the side, and also the smaller side also has a plastic bushing, and try not to damage those. Okay, and this little catching thing for the brake cable, you can just push it out, use a little extra force. It's going to push out from one end and also the other end. Okay, and just moves. And also don't lose the small components in here because everything's removable. So just try to keep all the parts that we don't need at a safe location on the side. Okay, and since I just serviced the other lever, I know exactly what to do. So since my memory is still pretty fresh, I'm going to be doing the right arm as well to get it greased up so I can restore the bike that I'm restoring. Over here, it exposes the internal lever and the out lever for the brake. This is for like downshifting, whatever. To remove the okay, first thing first is remove the top, the screw covering on the top. This one is super easy. You just unscrew it counterclockwise, and also apply pressure here. You don't want this come out flying because there's a spring inside. And also there is a washer, a locking washer in here. You don't want to lose that as well. Get it out. Okay, those goes to the side. Actually, those goes together with the cover so you don't lose it. Let's see, I'm gonna put the cover on the side. The cover, if it doesn't pop out, you'll have to use like a flathead screwdriver to kind of just walk around a little bit to use the other end. I'm using the thin side and just prying this off like slowly. And there is a plastic bushing and a spring in here. Do not damage those parts because they're kind of important to keep it smooth running, okay? And just gently pry on the area that you can pry. And eventually you should be able to, again, keep pressure, remove this part with the spring that's going to be exposed. Let's see. And I can already feel like there is a lot of like nasty grease that kind of locked and gummed up in here. Otherwise, this should be fairly easy to remove. And the grease made it all gunked up and very hard to remove. Okay, now that spring just popped out. You'll want to remember the location of the spring, okay? So kind of important. There is a catching area over here that's going to be used for one of the paw on the spring here, and the other area used for the other paw, which aligns with a little pin over here. With this spring, it also comes with a washer. This plastic washer is to ensure the smooth rotation of the arm. Do not damage this and do not lose it. This goes together with the spring. And again, it's best to kind of just remember the original position of those components. Very gummed up inside. I'm just going to do a general clean before I continue with removing this metal lever over here. Okay. And again, everything's gummed up, so it's not going to, well, now it's kind of, it moves and it catches. So it just needs a good degreasing and some proper lubrication. And it should work you know, like new again. Now it's kind of working a little bit. And again, this is a 7 gear. All right, so the right lever is not so bad as the left. The left like does not click at all. The left, at least when I removed some components, starts to click. But regardless, I'm gonna take this off and completely remove the gunk and the old grease inside, and then we're gonna just re-grease it with engine oil. Okay, that's my favorite thing to use for those kind of vintage bicycle components. They work well with lubrication and they aid with keeping all the parts moving smoothly. Okay, so to remove this lever, you have to turn this and expose that little Phillips screwdriver or screw inside. You need to remove that screw, and this lever, you know, flies off. Super easy. So I'm gonna use a kind of a bigger Phillips head screwdriver, not the smaller one. The smaller one will strip it. Use the biggest one you have, and you're just gonna apply some pressure on the lever and put the screwdriver in here. It's better to do this on a flat surface so you can get a very good grip, and just turn it counterclockwise to unlock that Phillips screw. And again, with tension still applied, the screw should pop out. Now there's one thing that's very important once we remove this screw, okay, is when you remove this side, this part, when you remove it, okay, I'm gonna remove it. Basically, just pull it out. There is going to be this little piece, which is actually the locking metal for that screw that you just removed. Do not lose this, otherwise you cannot get the cover on there. This is the most important piece. Okay, so keep it there. Do not lose it. Keep it in a safe place, that little square thing. The square thing situates in here, which helps in locking the screw onto the lever. So very important piece. So basically it just sits like this in here. When you put that locking screw, which we just removed right here, in there, it helps with keeping a proper distance for the lever. Okay, so don't lose it. And you know, this is all those steps are actually super easy. And every time I remove one component, I'm just gonna use a paper towel, whatever, to remove all the old gunk and grease, whatever is stuck in there, get them removed. Because when you do the new thing, you don't want any old grease in there. And this lever is surprisingly in excellent condition. So not much, you know, not much to clean and restore. Basically just need to remove the old grease, which is very nice. So again, keep those cover parts clean as well. Any part that gets dirty, just do a general clean. And this one looks pretty good. I can smell the old grease from the 1990s. We don't want those. Okay, so this part is nicely cleaned. Okay, this part is nicely cleaned. So at the same time, you get all the parts nicely cleaned and rebuilt. Now let's look at this main piece, which is, you know, what we're gonna tackle and focus on. Now, as I demonstrated to you, it's kind of sluggish to shift around. And those yellow things are what's gumming it up. I'm just gonna remove most part that's visible, and this paw is kind of important. Oh, I can feel it. It's like rubbery gum over here. Use any kind of solvent that's strong and effective at removing mechanical grease, and it should get this, you know, in a really good and smooth shape. Almost as good as new. Okay, so remove every yellow part. I'm gonna go outside and use my glue gun, spray everything, get everything removed, and we're gonna come in here and we're gonna take another look. Once I remove all the old grease, it should look much better. All right, guys, I just got back inside, and I want to show you the effort of using the degreaser or mineral spirits to clean the old gunk. Okay, I used glue gun, And as you can see, still some gunks left, the yellowish part left. And I'm just gonna use a little pick from the paper clip and kind of just get those gunks out. And whatever you can get out, it's gonna make sure that later on when you apply new lubricant, whichever that you're gonna apply, it's as smooth as possible, okay? All right, guys, so I got some of my engine oil, synthetic, I think 15W40 or something like that. And I have a plier here because I want to demonstrate to you how this mechanism works, okay? Actually, at this stage, it's shifting perfectly. The only thing that's still slow is this little paw over here. Hopefully, I'm gonna give it a few drops of engine oil and that would actually freeze this paw up. I'm gonna show you guys. You see it's returning kind of slow. And again, I'm just gonna drop some engine oil, a couple drops, in all the spring area and all the gaps and creaks. I'm going to do it on both sides, all the paws and gearings. And I'm giving quite a lot to the internal spring over there because I haven't opened it, I cannot access it. I'm just going to use the oil to soak it up. If there are any gunks, hopefully it gets soaked up. And this spring needs a lot of care. And hopefully after this, everything would actually move more freely. Let's see. Still a little bit slow. Let's see. See if I can just using the repeated motion to kind of free it up so it would move quicker, and I can feel like it's moving a little bit quicker. I guess that's good. Okay, let me demonstrate to you the shifting action. So to upshift, you have to grab this hook, and that's why I'm using this to grab it. So when I upshift by turning it, you can see it's clicking perfectly fine, okay? So that's imitating the lever action. And so everything is actually working almost perfectly with the exception this paw is like really freed up. You can see the difference between the spring back action and this one is really sluggish. Now hopefully it's already so much better with engine oil. And hopefully in a little bit, once the engine oil soaks it up, this little paw would work a lot quicker. But at this stage, it's already working perfectly fine. Okay, so those are your worrisome areas when your shifter doesn't work properly. It's this paw and this paw on the right shifter, and there is just one paw on the left shifter that you need to worry about. Alright guys, I am back, and this should be the final stage of getting all the spring, gunked up spring working. And after a little bit of oiling and letting the oil soak, engine oil soak for a bit, all the problematic paws now should be working perfectly fine. This one, as you can remember before, was like super slow to return. Now look at that, instant return. So we got this paw fixed. And the other paw is already like working in great condition. I can demonstrate to you guys in just a little bit. But this paw is fully fixed. Okay, all the gunks probably moved along with the addition of the engine oil. Now it's nice and positive. This paw is already working, very good. So this one is not causing any issues. And now we can actually put everything back together. Okay. which is the reverse order of putting everything, removing everything, okay? And I removed all the excessive oil that I've put in here to try to freeze up the gunk. Just a little bit of oil is enough to keep it running smooth and crisp for a long time. And the first thing first you're gonna do is get this cover installed, okay? Let me clean the cover just for one last time. Okay. The cover goes on very easily. There really isn't anything special. And remember that little square piece? We want that square piece to rest right here, with the tooth actually facing downwards. So there's one area that's protruding and one area that's recessing. You want the protruding area facing internally to the threads. And next, you're gonna gently just put this on here, making sure the screws are aligned, the screw holes are aligned. And now you're gonna actually just, let's see if it gets in there. Okay, now everything's aligned, as you can see. And there's no gap in here. This plastic piece is covering the back, there's no gap. Now you can safely give it some pressure, open this up, access the little hole and put the screw there, and use your screwdriver to, just lock it up. And I'm gonna try to do this with two hands, kind of a little hard. Okay, I kind of got the screw situated in there, and now we just need to turn it all the way and make sure it's fully locked, the lever with this intermediate component gearing group set. Once it stops, just make sure it's nice and tight, and we'll start the next step. Okay, all right, now it's done. Oh wow, it's already very smooth. You can hear all the clicks already, and now I can just use my hand to twist, and it's nice and crisp. So it is fixed, okay? The gunk is removed and the gear is fixed. Excellent. We're slowly put everything back onto the levers. All right, so this thing, we can just leave it here for now. There's no sides for this little catcher for the brake line. You just push it in there, and it's dual-sided, so whichever end is fine. You don't have to worry about that, okay? And now let's go to the front and focus on the front, which is this spring over here. The spring, for the right side, it doesn't really matter which side you face, top or bottom, but on the left lever, it kind of matters. Over here, it doesn't seem to be matter that much because both sides are symmetrical. They look exactly the same. On the left side, one end is flat this way, one end is flat this way. So there is a direction, but this one, there isn't. Keep that in mind. Let's see. Or there is one that's like kind of flat. I think the flat one actually faces the outside, but I could be wrong. Let's see. Doesn't really make much difference. I'm gonna say the flat one actually goes here, and I'm gonna tell you the reason is the non-flat one, the curved one, is gonna go better here, which is gonna rest in the rounded area over here. So you definitely want this area to be rounded, and based on that, I think the flattened piece actually goes directly to the main body, and non-flattened one goes to the curved area right here. That's my assumption, and I think I'm right, okay? And don't forget that little plastic piece. That's important because it keeps the lever from turning smoothly. All right, so with everything attached facing this way, now we can have the top cover, which is aluminum, on there, okay? Just remember where it turns. So the lever is gonna go that way, and you're gonna try to find that little pin under here. You're gonna grab that pin and then try to turn it with the pin. attach a little pressure. Let's see, hopefully it goes in nicely. Oh, see, that's why it's tricky. This spring is more, it's got more sprung levels than the other side, so it's kind of more tricky to do. And once you get everything aligned into the hole, by turning it and applying a little pressure, you should be able to drop it in there if you did everything correctly. All right, guys, I kind of did it. How I did it is I laid this flat on the table, and I was able to precisely line the washer and the spring together. And now I just need to put this little thing with the locking washer back in there and lock this tight so it doesn't get moved. This is 5mm hex wrench. You don't want this to pop out. And this should do the trick of locking the thing. So I guess you can't really tighten this too much, otherwise it would actually prevent it from shifting properly. And that's my assumption, okay? But for now, it shifts perfectly fine, and this thing I can tighten it just a little more. Okay, let's see, it still works. Yeah, it still works. So just keep an eye on the looseness of the spring, of the screw on the top. But the restoration is actually complete. This one, the left, works perfectly, okay? And it's got a very light action. The other side, now we're gonna do the most tricky part, okay? Which is putting the bushing in there, putting the screen, have it locked in place, and having that little pin go directly through without any issue. I'm gonna leave this side empty. All right, okay, the pins here, and we already put the bushing in there, so it's fine. Okay, now we need to line this up with the bottom part. Let's see. I'm gonna clean the bottom part just a little bit, and in this instance, a little bit of the oil is gonna help on the hole. Okay, locking screw, and that's all I'm gonna use. Now we gotta focus on getting this on there. Now it's time to install the bushings. And based on the layout, let's see. If you look this way on the bottom, you're gonna have the longer one on the left side and the shorter one on the right side. Just based on the look, it's very easy and you won't be able to mess it up. Okay, so I'm gonna install the longer bushing here on the longer side, and also the spring hole is gonna be on the longer side as well. Let's see. Try to find the spring hole. If there's no spring hole, then it's probably just grabbing the directly on the thing itself. Let's see. Right here. Okay, the bushing goes onto the spring. Sorry, I was looking on the main body, which is incorrect. You're just gonna align the spring with the hole, and I don't think you can mess it up because there's only one way for the spring and to go in. Okay. All right, the spring is in there, and this thing is protruding and facing outside. The other side spring, I'm also gonna put it in. And now is the tricky part of aligning this on there with this spring hopefully resting a little bit more protruding outside. There might be, you might not have to do it, but you might have to do it. I'm going to show you if we do have to do it. Now you're just going to kind of push the spring in there and push this in there and just in general align all the holes, okay, right there. Now this is the pin. I always find the easiest way is go from the shorter end to the long end, but if you see other videos, they like to go from the long end to the short. Whichever way, it doesn't really matter. What matters is don't damage the plastic bushing. And I'm going to be using my the punch to go from the longer end to just kind of hold everything together. And I'm going to go to the shorter end and align the pin. The recessed area is going to rest at where the locking screw is. So you're going to align the longer side facing the longer side, shorter side facing the shorter side. And for me, I'm pretty much just laying it flat and pushing it in. As I push it in, the punch side actually falls out. So I can just continue aligning everything. And with the punch on the other side, I'm going to use a little extra force and kind of just align everything and just push really quickly. And this is, again, as you can see, my way, which I think is the easiest way of getting the pin installed on there. And you're pretty much almost done, okay? So the last step left is tighten this 2mm hex wrench to lock it so the pin doesn't fall off when you try to brake and shift. Kind of important. And this one is actually pretty tight. So just make sure it goes in nice and tight and it locks in place nice and tight. You're going to turn until it cannot be turned, which means it's actually touching the little pin over here and locking it. So a good lock is always a good lock. And give it a try. Beautiful, nice, smooth, no weird noise. Shifting fine. And shifting fine over this way as well. Wow. Now the bike restoration could continue, and this is actually, the last step that I need to do. That's kind of necessary. So with everything cleared out of the way, we would conclude this video. Little tips is always use a punch to get one end in, and I use a punch to rest on the longer end to get the lever in there. Some people like to go from shorter end, but I find longer end is easier. Do not lose any of the springs. Do not lose that little small piece, square piece on the lever. That's used to lock and space the screw correctly. And also the main thing that you need to do once your lever stops working is get those two stuck paws freed up. Use a strong spirit, mineral spirit or detergent, whichever that moves the grease. Once it's removed, drip some light motor oil or whatever oil that you prefer, or even chain lubes should work fine. And your lever should last for quite a long time before it needs another service. And that's pretty much how you restore and rebuild a Shimano RSX-A410. Now the 7-speed and 8-speed is going to be extremely similar. The 8-speed probably only added an additional gear. So the service should again be very, very similar. If you have a thumb shifting lever that gets stuck, again, it's going to be the same cost. Thumb shifters are easier to service than those. So you should definitely look into degreasing the stuck paw and put light oil on there and rejuvenate those stuck paw and the springs, and you should be good to go. If you guys find this video helpful, please do hit the like button or subscribe to my channel, because I have a lot more cycling videos and maintenance tips for the bicycles coming out for you guys. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.